What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all keeping well. Now I have another project for you. This one is a hand tool project. It is a monitor stand, so something I'm making for my office space in where my desk is. And this is something to stand a monitor or laptop on, complete with drawer and an area to tuck away the keyboard. So it frees up a lot of space, raises the monitor to a nice height, and gives you some storage as well. So that's the whole point of this. Now, this is 99% a hand tool project, so hopefully you guys enjoy it, hopefully get something out of it. In this video I cover how I lay out my dovetails, a few other techniques, cutting dados by hand, and also we do a continuous grain drawer, so I show you how to do that as well, so the grain wraps around the whole drawer. So without further ado, lads, let's crack on and jump into this monitor stand complete with drawer. Okay, let's crack on with this project. Now I have a nice piece of cherry here. It's rough sawn, so we've got to do a bit of stock preparation. And I have a nice freshly sharpened plane blade here. Now I'll try and keep the talking to a minimum. I've done full videos on stock prep before, so I won't go into that again. So I'll crack on. I'm going to prepare this board by hand and try and do as much of this project with hand tools as possible, because that's what I really enjoy. I don't get to do much woodworking lately as I would like, so I'm going to take my time with this one and enjoy this project, and hopefully you guys will enjoy following along with the build as well. So razor sharp blade, let's get that in and get set up, and let's get planing. Okay, there we go, one silky smooth, perfectly flat face side, and there's few things in life more enjoyable than a razor sharp hand plane and a nice piece of wood that cooperates, and you get that lovely full length shavings. Yeah, it is quite nice indeed, and it's peaceful, it's quiet, and there's no dust. This is why hand tool woodworking is so nice. Now, I get a face edge and I will continue on and plane this board. I won't bore you guys with that. I'll just show you some shots. And like always, I have a drawing to work to with some dimensions, but it's just a rough drawing. I have some big checks in this wood that I have to get down to, so ultimately the dimensions will be what the timber allows us to have, and I'll work from that. As soon as I have my stock prepared, I can adjust my dimensions accordingly. So I'll crack on and we'll jump back in when we're going to chop this up. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to dimension this up with my miter saw. It's just that it's an inch thick and it's a little bit big for my shooting board, and planing inch thick end grain on cherry is a little bit difficult. So I hope you guys will forgive me, but I'm going to use my miter saw for this. Now I just want to make sure that I'm 100% accurate here. So let's get the square on this. Make sure everything is still good, and it is. So I'm going to do a truing cut, just make sure my face edge is against my fence, and it is. So a truing cut, and then I'm going to cut these at 125mm from my sides. So that's just nearly bang on 5 inches. My piece of stock is quite thick. I want a kind of a chunky look to it, so it's 25mm or just nearly exactly 1 inch. So yeah, let's get a truing cut on this, then I can cut my two pieces out of it. Now I want a kind of continuous grain, so I'm going to cut my first side out of this side of the board and my second side out of this side of the board, if that makes sense. And we kind of have continuous grain wrapping down both sides. It'll all make sense in a minute. Okay, that's that board dimension up. Now, miter saw didn't do a great job. As you can see, I've got some burning. That blade definitely needs a touch up, and I got a little bit of blade deflection. So I'm going to have to use a shooting board. I could have cut this by hand and just use the shooting board. So this old shooting board was made for my last table, which went into the well, so it's kind of just tilted up. There's a cleat on this side, but that doesn't matter. So I just want to take this burn marks out of it and just get these sides perfectly square, and just take the blade mark out of it, because like I said, there was a little bit of deflection in that blade. Well, just a little run on the shooting board, as you can see, and it's perfectly fine. Now we always want to keep like our face edge against that fence as well, and just so we don't get blowout on this end, it's always handy just take the corner down just a touch, put that against your fence, and just try and take down that side a little bit. That is actually perfectly flat. It's not taking much off. There we go. All saw marks removed. Lovely, flat, square and true. So, as long as these are both exactly the same, we should be good to go. And there's just the barest bit in it. So I'll take this one down a touch and we should be bang on. Okay, all our sides are prepared. We have a lovely gap there. So the shooting board done its job. Never doubt the shooting board like I did there. I was actually doubting myself there. That's why I used the miter saw. But like I said, that blade is not great. And touching it up on the shooting board now gave me perfect edges. So as it stands, our side pieces are 125mm exactly, or just under the 5 inches. And our top piece is 530mm, nearly exactly 21 inches. So that's what we're looking at. So that'll be our sides. They will just stand there like that, nice and simple. And we're going to dovetail these in. Now, I'm going to put my dovetails on the top because I want to look at my dovetails. These are nice thick boards. They're not going to, the sides are not going to do that. Like I said, this will drop an inch down into this material. There's no need to put a stretcher on it. There's no need to put the tails on the side. I want them on the top. The force, if there is any force, it'll be going this way. It won't be, these won't be getting pulled because they're the legs, obviously. So it's fine to put them in the top. And for the aesthetics of it, I want to put them in the top so I will see them. So that's it. Let's mark out our tails now in our bench top, and let's get cutting them. Okay, I'm going to mark out my dovetails. Now, I'll show you quickly how I do this. Most of you guys will know this method, I'm sure. I'm just going to be using the 2 dividers. We're just going to eyeball what kind of size tails we want. I'm going to try and put 5 tails in this. I want them kind of keep them big because the wood is quite chunky. I think 5 tails would look good. Again, this is purely aesthetics. Whatever ratio, whatever angle you go with, it's not really to do with the hardwood or type of wood you're using. It's to do with fashion more than anything else. If you look at dovetails down through the centuries, it was more about fashion than anything else, about the angles. Some of them are very steep, some of them are very shallow angles, some of them really thick pins, some have really skinny pins. Again, it's down to personal preference. I'm going to try and put 5 in this. So let me just get you in for a quick look. I'll show you exactly how you do this method, and it's nice, quick and simple. Let me show you. Okay guys, let's get cracking and mark this out. Now, nice and quick, I'm just going to run through this very fast. So I think most of you guys will be familiar with this. Now again, this is pure aesthetics. You kind of eyeball this. A lot of guys who do a lot of dovetail work can just do this by eye and they don't actually have to mark it out, but we're going to mark it out. So first thing I'm going to do, we have 2 dividers. I have a small one and a large one. The small one I'm going to set for my end pins. So again, I'm just eyeballing this. What width do I want my end pins to be? I like this dimension here. It looks good with the thickness of the timber, just to my eye. So I'm going to mark my end pins both sides, just like that. Again, I'm just eyeballing this. Now, I'm going to draw it in pencil just so you guys can see it on the camera. Hopefully you will see that. Now I want 5 tails, so I've just roughly set my dividers. That should give me 5 even spaces. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm just not going to mark this, I'm just going to walk it down the board. Now this width is going to give me a tail plus a pin. So this will all make perfect sense now in a second. So well, that's 1 tail and pin, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now when I stop here, this width from this line to the end of my divider, this width right here, that's the width all my pins are going to end up with. Now I'm pretty happy with that. That's a nice narrow pin for this thickness of timber. It'll look good. It's not going to be too hard to work, and it should give me plenty of room to get my smallest chisel in. Don't make them so small that you can't get your chisel in. So I'm happy with that mark. I don't have to make any adjustments. Now if you do have to make an adjustment, you want to make this bigger or smaller, it's a tiny adjustment on this, because remember, we're doing 5 steps, so any adjustment we make will be multiplied 5 times. If you're doing more tails, if you're doing 7 or 8 tails, it'll be multiplied 7 or 8 times. So it's a tiny adjustment, and just check and make sure you're happy. So I'm pretty happy with that, so we're going to mark it out. Right, so I'm going to put a point there, 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 and I don't need to mark this one, okay? So I'm going to draw those in for you guys now. There we go. Make sure everything is nice and square. Okay, so now we're going to walk back the other way, and you will now see this all come together. So mark there, mark there, mark here, mark here, and that's it. Now if I draw in these ones, you can now see my dovetails. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perfectly even dovetails, and I'll just draw them in here so you guys can just hopefully see this on the camera. And it should start making more sense once you see it laid out. Again, I'm going to put knife marks on these just for my saw to follow, but I'll draw it with pencil. Just again, just to help this come out on camera. Again, I'm using a 1 and 6 because I want a bit of an angle on my dovetails, and I've done that wrong there. Now look at that. Not paying attention. Nice angle on dovetails so that my dovetails actually look like dovetails. I didn't draw in that one there. That is the mistake that I am making. There we go. Now, so hopefully you guys can see that on camera. Our 5 dovetails are now marked out, and I'm pretty happy with our pins. I'm pretty happy with the thickness of our tails. Again, it's only a slight adjustment if you want to make your pins narrower or bigger, or your dovetails bigger, and that's a nice quick even way to do it. Now you just keep those 2 dimensions, and you can mark out the rest of your pieces and keep them all exactly the same. Okay guys, that's a Dovetails all cut now and in place, and I have to say I am a little bit out of practice. They're not the greatest Dovetails I've ever done. I have a wayward saw cut on this one which I'll have to do a repair on, and I'll show you that when I'm doing it. I'll have to make something up, I would say, out of one of the waste bits that I've cut out. Yeah, not my greatest Dovetails, like I said. It's been a while since I've cut them, but you know, if you stand back and squint from across the room, they don't look too bad. But a little bit of fettling, a bit of hand planing. When this is all glued up, you won't even see any of that. So we'll tidy it all up and it will look good when we're finished. There is nothing that's not rescuable. But you have a slight repair to do there, and that was just a wayward saw cut. But that's done now, so let's get on and make the drawer. So you can see it's a nice simple project. And yeah, we get the drawer in now. We might use some contrasting woods to make that. Right guys, on to the drawers. Now I had a bit of walnut in the workshop, so that's what I'm going to use. It'll be a nice contrast to the cherry. So I've just planed up a bit of stock, prepared it again, and I've actually just taken this to the bandsaw and I've split it in half. So this is going to make up my drawer. So I'm going to make a continuous grain drawer. This will show you how to make a continuous grain box if that's something you ever wish to do. It's very, very simple once you get the concept. So I'll show you how it's going to be done. So I'm going to take one of these pieces, which is split in two, to make our drawer, and we'll make the internals of the drawer from the other bit. So I have a little bit of planing to do on this still. So this was perfectly straight. You can see how much wood moves when you cut it, and you can see the gap that's in between those two pieces of timber. Now they were two perfectly straight edges, and as soon as I release the tension on this, it curved this way as well. So I've got to plane these back straight again. So that's my first job, and then I've got to cut these into the various sizes and miter the edges and show you how you do that continuous grain. It's actually very simple. So let's get on and do that. Okay, first things first, I just want to get this back to flat again. Okay, so just flatten the top of that again so it gives me a nice reference edge to work against my fence on my shooting board. Now, if you want to make a continuous grain box or a continuous grain drawer that makes it look like the grain is continuous or wraps around the whole box or drawer, this is essentially how you do it. You take one piece of wood and you split it down the middle. And then when you're cutting your sides, you just do the opposite on both sides. So I'm going to cut my long side will be here, and my short side will be here. Then from the opposite side here, then this will be my short side, and this will be my long side on this piece. Then when you put your box together, the grains match the whole way around, and that's how you do it. Again, once I cut these pieces and put them all back together, that'll make even more sense. I'm just going to quickly run through this now. So I'm going to dimension this up, square up all my edges on my shooting board, work everything back to the correct size. Then we'll take out the miter shooting board, we'll miter all the corners, and I'll put it back together just like this, and you will be able to see how you get your continuous grain box. So I'll crack on with that, and like I said, we'll jump back in. Okay guys, so I have the components now cut for the continuous grain drawer or continuous grain box if that's what you were making. So as you remember, we split it down the middle. So you can see now once I take it apart, I have my long side and my short side, and then the opposite way around here, my short side and then my long side. Now what that does, obviously these two pieces are cut from the same piece, so that grain will match that grain. If I turn that there, and because these two pieces are split from the same pieces of wood, that grain here matches the end of this grain, so then that goes there. Likewise on this side, this piece and this piece are a continuous piece, so that grain will match, and because that's essentially a book match of this corner, that grain matches this grain as well on this corner. So that's how you do it, nice and simple, just like that. Split your piece of wood down the middle, go long side, long side, and that will give you a grain that wraps around the whole box or drawer. Now it looks very, very effective when you've got a really beautiful grain pattern. This is a very simple straight grain, but still, it'll be nice. So that's how you do a continuous grain box or drawer. Okay, my next task then is just to dimension these to their final dimensions. I left them a little bit longer, just a couple of mil longer than they needed to be, just so I can sneak up on the perfect dimension on the shooting board. So I want to square up all these edges. I also want to take a little bit off them. They're a little bit thick. I don't want my drawer to be that kind of big. So I'm going to do all that on the shooting board now. So I'll crack on and do that, and then we shall miter the edges. Right guys, I'm going to use my mitered shooting board for making my mitered corners for my drawer. Just a couple of things to be aware of here when you're doing this. Make sure that your plane blade is perfectly square to the sole of your plane, so just check that. Keep the face side down at all times so that you put your miters on the right side. Now, in order to put the miters on the right side, I have to put my face edge against my fence on this side, but I will have to flip my piece around in order to keep the face side facing down. So I need to make sure that this is square all the way around, because I'm referencing then the opposite face to the face side, if you know what I mean. So face side is against the fence, I got to flip it around and put that side against the fence. So just make sure your pieces are square, and this is just all about taking your time and checking as you go, and everything should be good. So it's a nice and simple jig. I have a full video on making this. It's great for doing boxes and mitered corners like this. So I crack on now. It's just a lot of me going backwards and forwards and just checking and rechecking that our miters are looking good. So one little visual thing you can check, if the camera will focus. There we go. It's just as you're making your way down to your corner, just make sure that this line here is pretty consistent. So if that's even the whole way down, you know you're planing square and your blade setup is right, because we know this is a good straight edge. We know our fence is square. So we can just use this as a reference the whole way down. So I'll crack on and do all the rest of these pieces now. Okay guys, that's our miters all done, and the grain matches in every corner, so that's nice. And again, it's not the most beautiful grain, but still it's a match, so that will do. Now I'm just going to glue these mitered corners. I'm putting a plywood base in this, so we're going to rebate that in all around, so that's our next job. And that will hold it together as well. And then we're going to put a few brace pieces just as drawer dividers. This is going to act as a tray that I want to be able to take in and out as well, so it's going to be nice and light. So this will hold it together as well. We might put in 2 of these just as some dividers, and we'll cut in some dados to sit those into, glue them in place, and that will hold our drawer together as well. So that's it. Let's get on now and let's get our recesses in for our base. Right, on to cutting the grooves for the base of our drawer. Now, this is a Lubin plough plane, and every time I use it in a video, I get asked lots of questions about it. So that's what it is, plough plane by Lubin, and I purchased this one from Workshop Heaven. If you guys are interested in getting one, that's where I bought it from. So yeah, let's crack on now. I'll get you a close up of this, and we'll start cutting some grooves. Okay, one of my favourite little tools to use, I have it all set up there. So I have my fence set for my correct distance in. I have the depth stop set to about 4 millimeters. That's how far down I want to go. I have a 6mm blade in it, which will match my 6mm plywood that I'm using, or my 1/4" plywood. And then it's just a case of cut the groove. Start from the end and work your way back, rather than trying to push a cut all the way through. So if you start from the end, just set my blade a little bit deeper, and kind of work your way back. So I'm taking my cut a little bit further back each time, just so you can establish that groove. And then when you're all the way to the end and you have kind of a wall established both sides, then it's safe to push the whole way through. And it's nice, quick and easy. I really do love this tool. It's so effective. It gives it such a clean cut and gives you a lovely groove. Just like that. Beautiful. Now that is infinitely better than using a noisy, dusty router. What a pleasure. There's a quick close-up of the end result. You can see just what you can achieve with a plough plane. So a beautifully straight groove, lovely square sides, and nicely cut, as long as you keep your blade nice and sharp. So it's an absolute pleasure to use, and it literally takes seconds to cut a groove. So there you go. Let's get the base in this and see how we're looking. Lovely, that's a good snug fit all around, and that will help hold this drawer together. Okay, I have the test assembly done on the drawer. I'm pretty happy with how all my miters and stuff are lining up, which is good. So I want to put in a couple of drawer dividers now. So I'm going to come in 50mm each end, or 2 inches, just to have a slot to put pens, pencils, keys, coins, whatever I want to keep at my desk. I'm just going to leave in the slot. I want a large center section then for my paperwork and stuff can sit in there. So that's the plan. So we have a couple of housing dados now to put in. So let's get on and chop those. Okay, so I'm just measuring in 50mm from the end of the miter on each piece. I'm marking it out then with a marking knife. And I'm going to put in quite a heavy cut. I'm going to chop these with a chisel. So a nice heavy cut to put our chisel in. And then we can use the piece itself to mark the thickness. So I'll get on and do all that now, and we'll start chopping this out. Okay, there's a number of approaches we can take here. I'm going to be using the chisel to cut this out, so that's why I started with a nice deep marking line. So I'm just going to line my chisel up, make sure I'm perpendicular. Couple of taps. Just kind of establish a nice wall. And that'll give me something to work back to. Don't want to take too heavy a cut, because the bevel of the chisel will drive you back into the wall and you'll widen your housing dado slightly. So I'm trying to catch this on camera, so I'm at a little bit of an awkward angle here. So once I have my first cut made, I'm just going to tap back towards my wall. And then we can clean that out, and we can just keep working our way down like that. So I'm going to crack on and do that now. And we'll chop this out. And I'm going to work down 4mm, so down to my groove line, and I have a marking gauge line here. We'll work down to that both sides, and then we'll just clean it out with a chisel. So I'll keep chopping. It's a little bit awkward now. I'm trying to have the work set up so that you guys can see it with the camera. But I'll set this up so I can work on it a bit better. And we'll get chopping this. Okay guys, all 4 housing dados for the drawer dividers are now cut. So I have 2 more that I need to do, and that is in the sides of the table here. So I'm just going to put my drawer in place. That's where that's going to fit. And I'm going to take some offcuts of the walnut that I'm using, and I'm just going to set them in the side here just for drawer runners, just so this can sit and run in and out on it. So I'm going to cut 2 more housing dados into either side. Exact same technique, so I'll do that off camera, otherwise this will turn into an hour-long video and we don't want that. So I get on and cut that, get these fit in place, and then we're ready for more or less for the glue up, the final bit of fettling, repair some of the mistakes, and yeah, we're almost there with this project. Okay guys, just a quick catch up to where I am. So I have the housing dados done for the drawer runners. Hopefully you guys can see that there. So again, it's just the same technique of knocking out that housing dado. I've just put the drawer runner in there. So you can see that just sets in 4mm into that. And that's what my drawer is going to slide forwards and back on. I'm just going to round over these edges. Now, what I'm just about to get ready to do, and what I said I'd show you, was the mistake I made with this dovetail here. So let me get you for a close-up of that. Okay, so this is the dovetail in question. You see I have a nice big gap here. I just a bad saw cut. The saw ran off at an angle. I straightened it up, but it left me with this gap here that I was going to have to fill. Now, I have the piece that I cut out for this tail here, which matches this grain. So just in case, I'm going to try and split a bit of this off, create a wedge, bit of glue, tap it in there, and then just plane it off. And hopefully, from a distance anyway, it won't look too bad. The rest of the dovetails are looking pretty good there now. So we'll fill this, a little bit of filling in the front to do here, and we'll just try and match this end grain up on top. So split this little piece and stick it in. Okay, that's the piece I want to match in there. And we just need to kind of shave it down into a wedge that we can tap down. Okay, that's our wedge made up. Hopefully that should match our grain pretty good. It'll be a bit of subterfuge anyway. It mightn't match exactly, but we'll try and hide the mistake as best we can. That is all we can do at this stage. Okay, we'll let that glue go off, we'll pair it off, we'll fill the gap here in the front, a little bit of sawdust. And I think that would be pretty good. Just going to put a quick little chamfer on the legs here. Are going to make contact with the desk. And just a chamfer, I just stop those edges from splitting if they do take a knock. Like this is a close-up of the repair. We have a pretty good grain match. We can still see a little dark line here, but I think with the finish on it, and that will be very hard to notice from across the room anyway. But yeah, we got a pretty decent match to the grain on top. Okay, so we're just there, everything's assembled, glued up and sanded. So the drawers together, I've just slotted in the drawer dividers. They're not glued in place, so I can pull them out if I need to. If I want to change the layout of the drawer, I can do that. Very quickly then, if we look underneath, we have our two drawer runners in place. And I've just rounded the front edge of both of those just to help the drawer slide up. And I've put in a little walnut stop here as well to stop the drawer against. So again, I want to be able to use this as a tray, so I want to be able to take it out and leave it down like this if I need to. And it's very simple just to slot it in place, hits against the stop like that, and we can take it in and out and use it as a drawer as well. So nice and plain in the front. Again, if you wanted to add more dovetails, you could dovetail your drawer too. That's up to you guys. But yeah, let's get a finish on this now and get it in place with everything on it. We can see it in action. So nice, simple oil finish is all I'm going to put on this. Nice, quick and effective. Build up a couple of coats and we should be happy days. And the oil really darkens up the dovetails, so you can see the contrast in the end grain there, which is really nice. Hey guys, here it is in place on my desk. This is how I do all my work, my editing and my office work for my business. So yeah, it frees up a nice bit of space. It elevates the monitor to a nice height when I'm sitting down looking at it. I have a nice drawer where I can keep my various things, and I can slide the keyboard away underneath, just like that. And like I said, it frees up a lot of space rather than just having the monitor sit on the desk taking up that whole footprint here. It now gives me extra storage, extra space. I can leave things up here too, put things away in the drawer, and tuck the keyboard away, take it out when I need it. So there you go, nice little handy project, and I actually quite enjoyed making that. Okay guys, there we go, another project complete, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's going to be a good addition to my workspace. And even though I was a little bit out of practice, the Dovetails turned out pretty good in the end, so I'm more than happy with that. And anytime I get to break out the hand tools is a good day indeed. Now, hopefully you guys got something from it, as always. Hopefully it inspires you to go and make something yourselves. That's the point of my channel. After all, I'm just sharing my hobby with you guys, and hopefully, like I said, it inspires you to go make something. So if you like this, guys, give the video a thumbs up, comments and questions below. I always try to get back to you if I can, and if you're new here, think about subscribing. That's it guys, until the next one. I will try my best to get more regular content out if I can. I'm just so busy with work at the minute, but until the next one guys, look after yourselves. I'll see you then.